What is up? It is Jack here. I hope you're doing really well. Look, are you looking to buy a house for the first time and you're not too sure on what the process is? Well, in this video, I want to give you 10 simple steps so that you can refer to them as you go along the buying process and so that you're fully aware of what it takes to buy a house. Look, if you find this video really helpful or interesting, then please make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification as well so that you don't miss an upload. But anyway, the simple 10 steps that it takes to buy a house. Let's go. So what I've done is I've split this down into 10 really easy, simple, actionable steps so that you understand what the process is of buying a house. Now, I'm not going to talk about selling a house because I'm assuming if you need to sell a house, then you probably know how to buy a house. So I'm just going to assume that you are a first-time buyer and I'm just going to go with the simple steps of buying your first house. So let's go. Step number 1 is this, okay? Figure out what your budget is. The way you do this is you would go to a mortgage broker, just Google mortgage brokers in my area, and you can then meet up with them and chat with them, or you can give them a call over the phone, and you can chat with them, and they will basically be able to ask you all the right questions and be able to direct you in the right direction for figuring out how much you will be able to borrow. Okay, because what you need to figure out is you need to know how much you can borrow, and you also need to figure out what your deposit is going to be. So your deposit, you should be able to know that based off of what you have in the bank, and you should be able to put that down as a deposit, but then you also need to have the amount that you are borrowing from a bank or whatever lender it's going to be. The best way to figure this out, I mean, there's 2 ways. The first way would be to go online. There's a number of different platforms where you can just type in your household income and it'll spit out a number. This is how much you could expect to borrow, which is a good kind of rough guide, but if you want a more accurate figure, then do speak to your mortgage broker, because then you'll be able to figure out what kind of borrowing you're going to use, whether it's bridging finance, whether it's going to be a straight up mortgage, if it's just your residential mortgage. But what I would recommend is, number 1, speak to a mortgage broker, figure out how much you can borrow and how much you're going to put down as a deposit. That way you know, all in all, if you can put down £20,000 as a deposit and you can also borrow £200,000, then you know that you will be able to buy a house for £220,000. Don't forget in this to also factor in the different fees that are going to come up, so your mortgage broker fees, your solicitor fees, any stamp duty that you're going to pay, things like that. So just make sure that you get yourself a good idea of how much you're going to spend on these different costs. Number 2, okay, so you've got to figure out next what your area is, and you need to basically find the house. So book your viewings, decide what area you want to live in or where you want to invest in, but all you need to do really next is start looking in a specific area and actually start viewing houses. Number 3, once you've chosen the area and you start viewing houses, once you like a house, it's as simple as contacting the agent or the seller direct, and you just put in your offer. Start putting in offers, and eventually, number 4, you will then go into negotiations, and eventually you will get an offer accepted on one of these houses. Number 5, once you have your offer accepted on a house, then speak to your mortgage broker again and say, look, I've got the house, I know exactly what house I'm buying, and they'll give you all the information that you need. They'll send out some forms that you just need to fill in. It's really easy, really simple, and they will basically talk you through the whole process really. So you can just fill in the forms that they send to you, you send them back, and they will get all the mortgage sorted and set up for you, ready to go. Number 6 is find a solicitor, okay? And if you can find a good one, even better, because they are very, very slow. So if you can find one that moves a little bit quicker than a snail's pace, you're doing really well at finding solicitors. But if you can find one, maybe ask friends if they'd recommend anybody. But all you need to do is approach them, give them a call, or pop into their office and have a conversation with them. They're really, really friendly. I mean, they should be anyway, and they will talk you through the whole process of, what are the next steps. And really, between your mortgage broker and between your solicitor, they should be able to talk you through the rest of the steps. But just for the purposes of this video, and just so that you understand before going into it, I'm going to carry on telling you what the next steps are, but just for peace of mind, because I wasn't aware of this, your solicitor will talk you through the rest of the steps that you need to take. So number 7, you need to decide whether you want a survey on the house. Now what happens is a bank or whoever is your lender, the person lending you the mortgage or the bridging finance, they will actually send somebody out to the property to have a look and do a survey of the house, basically to decide, is this actually worth what they're saying it's worth, or is this, you know, if we lend money against this house, is it going to be a safe investment for us? So they do a very basic survey, but if you wanted to upgrade that often you can, or you can instruct somebody else to do a more in-depth survey. Essentially what this does is it gets somebody to come into the property, have a proper look over the house, make sure there's nothing too serious wrong with the property, and for peace of mind, I think it's a few £100s, but it's definitely worth doing, especially if you're looking at holding the property long term. Number 8 is send your deposit over to your solicitor. They'll ask you for this, but then just make sure that you send it over to them quick. And essentially what you want to do with a solicitor is, what I would recommend anyway, is when they put the ball in your court, move fast, okay? Because they're going to be slow anyway, so if the faster you move, the faster the whole thing gets done, okay? If you want to complete quick, then just whenever they say, you know, could you send me over the deposit, make sure you send over that deposit as quickly as you can. In the meantime, your solicitor will get in contact with the lender, the person who's giving you your mortgage, and they will basically say, okay, we require the funds for this particular day, and they'll be able to get all the money from the mortgage company. You don't touch that money at all. All you do is send over your deposit to your solicitor. And then the final steps is exchanging contracts. So your solicitor will give you some documents that you need to sign that you're happy with, and you basically will exchange. And then the next step is what you'd call completing. You set a completion date, which basically is the day that you go, yep, the house is mine, I'm taking the keys, winner, winner. However, often the exchange date, the exchange of the contracts and the completion date, often these days are on the same day, because you can communicate that beforehand, and you basically just set a day, okay, in a couple of weeks time on this particular date is when we're going to exchange contracts and complete on the property. A little tip, your solicitor should definitely tell you this, but in case they don't, make sure that when you exchange contracts on that very day that you have building insurance, because once you exchange contracts, there's no going back, okay? You can't go, oh, actually, there's something wrong with the property, therefore have the keys back. It's your responsibility. So make sure that you get your building insurance in place. And then step number 10 is get the keys. Often these are left with the agent, so you can pop over to the agent and get the keys, and the property is yours. That's it. That's essentially it. It sounds very complicated. This was something that I wasn't aware of. I wasn't sure about the actual process in buying a house. But actually, it's a really simple process. And when you realise that once you've got your solicitor and you get a good mortgage broker, basically between them, they'll be able to sort you out and talk you through the whole process anyway. So for your peace of mind, just so you know, if you get a good solicitor and a good mortgage broker, you just ask them the questions, they'll talk you through the step-by-step process for it. But just for your peace of mind, I thought I'd put this 10-step guide together for purchasing a house. If you found it helpful, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. It would be so cool to have you part of the gang and watching more of these videos and making sure that you keep up to date with what is going on with my property journey and any lessons that I'm learning. But I hope this was really helpful for you. If you're interested in seeing the process of the property that I've just bought that I'm currently flipping, click on the I tag somewhere like up here or up here somewhere, and you'll be able to go through to that video and see the house that I've just bought that we're currently in the middle of refurbing. I'll be doing another video about that later on once we come to complete and sell the property. But like I said, I hope you found this really helpful. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.